Hello, and welcome to So You Think You Can Rule Persia? The podcast where we rate and review all the kings of Persia from Deioces to Yazdegerd III. I'm Serial, and my pronouns are they, them.
I'm Umberto, and my pronouns are he, him. Okay, so welcome to episode 1, and which is to say Deioces, the first king of roughly Persia. You'll find out why roughly, but he is going to lead us into about 90-ish or so kings until the end of this season. So
Hope we make it. That sounds like a lot of episodes.
yeah, it's a lot of episodes, but hey, we can do it. We're going to make it eventually, hopefully.
You're very
Probably.
optimistic. I love this.
Yeah, we said it in the intro, so it has to be true.
Yeah, that's true. Oh no, we need to change the intros to all the episodes now. All 2 of them.
Yes, terrible.
Okay, so yeah, Deioces, he's in the intro. He's the very first.
Yes, he's the first one.
I'm excited.
Yeah, so to warm up a little bit, I was wondering to ask you a little bit, Serial,
No.
about how much do you know about Persian history? Can you name any kings? Even if it's just, the guy that did the thing?
This is not fair. You're the research person, and I am the everyman stand-in.
Yes.
I know we've talked about Alexander the Great. I would have not particularly related him to the Persian Empire, but apparently he's in there, so I have heard about him.
Yes, he's in like 20 or so episodes. So look forward to that, but yes, he is going to be, at some point, King of Persia.
Yeah, for 20 episodes. So, that's as much as I know.
Good, so we'll have lots of cool stuff to get into along the way.
See, it's so the audience doesn't have to feel like they're not prepared for this, because I'm not prepared for this. So if you don't know something, it'll have to be explained to me anyway. So
Yeah, see, no preparation needed. We can just dive in and it'll be perfect.
we can all catch up together.
Yes, wonderful times. And yeah, so Deioces, basically the first of the Median kings, where Media is a kingdom which is not Persia, you may notice, but it is a neighboring kingdom which is essentially sort of the basis of the Persian Empire, and it'll eventually transform into a Persian Empire in episode 5 under somebody who has the nickname The Great, and you will hear more about him later on.
So how is a neighboring kingdom than the Persian Empire? I'm confused. So we're not starting in Persia?
No, there is going to be no Persia in this episode. Sorry, but it's important for context. And I'm going to explain why in a while.
I feel like we're lying to our audience. I feel like the title of this podcast, it's a bit of false advertising. If we're not in Persia.
Yeah, but I mean, it's only false advertising for episode 1. Episode 2 is no longer false advertising, so it's fine.
So why are we starting on episode 1 and not episode 2?
Well, I will tell you about that later on when we get to our sources, because I am following a very specific source who starts with Deioces, and I thought I'd do that too.
Okay.
So you'll hear about it, and Deioces is the interesting start of kingship in Iran anyway, so, it's good to...
Fair enough. I'm excited to learn.
Yeah. So, a bit of an intro to the geography of the area, because I assume that not everybody is familiar with the environment we're going to be in, so it's nice to get a rough picture with geometric shapes that everyone knows.
Yes, please.
So we can get into that.
Will we have maps?
We will have maps. I mean, this isn't a map-heavy episode, but, we will have maps around. There's probably some maps that still work from the previous episode with the Indo-European people and all that.
I guess whenever you're listening to this, check out our website or social media. That will definitely be up, and there will be something there.
Yes, you will see something about maps of the area. But if you're not able to access the website or social media, you can just think about it.
Yeah.
And if you're driving, you don't have to stop and look at maps for a while. So that's cool. So let's start with this. The idea is that Iran is a rectangle.
Okay.
Picture a rectangle. It's beautiful. Has 4 sides. 2 are longer than the other. It's a horizontal rectangle. Nice.
Glad I drew that correctly. I'm taking notes.
Perfect. So once you have that, what's on the sides of this rectangle? So let's start from the east. In the east, draw a triangle in a V shape where the bottom right corner of the rectangle is the top left corner of this triangle. So what is this triangle that's pointing downwards? Well, this is India.
Oh, right.
India is roughly the same size of the Iranian plateau, and it's defined in the ancient sources at least as the land that is beyond the Indus River.
Right.
Which is essentially the border between our rectangle and the triangle section. So right now the Indus is basically in the middle of Pakistan, but in our sources we're just going to say that anything past the Indus is India, just because that's where the name comes from. Then if we look to the top right corner of the rectangle, you can just draw some little mountains there. Those are the Himalayas. Those are a big barrier. We'll never go past it. It's fine. So know that it is an unstoppable area.
Yeah, pretty tall, I've heard.
Yeah. It's difficult to become taller than those. It's a lot of work. But then look south of the rectangle. So at the bottom, there's just the sea. It's the Persian Gulf. It's a nice wavy sea. And beyond that, we'll have Arabia. But they don't come into the story for a while. So, it mostly sea at the moment.
Great.
Then we can look north. North, we have two bits. So to the northeast, we have a section of steppe.
Okay.
Which is where those Indo-European people we talked about came from.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of different people are going to come from that steppe because it's basically a corridor that leads you to Siberia in one direction and to the Black Sea in the other direction. So it's a
big entrance.
Yeah, and every nomadic people is going to be coming through there at some point. While in the top west corner of the area...
To the left.
Yes, top left corner of the rectangle, we have a sea as well, which is the Caspian Sea.
Oh.
Which is the world's largest lake. And
wait, so it's freshwater?
No, it's saltwater.
Oh.
It's just the largest lake in the world. It's massive. And yeah, it is there. It's Caspian Sea. It's not connected to many urbanized civilizations, but it's going to be interesting to have it around in general.
Why is it called a lake if it's seawater?
I mean, it is a sea. It's called the Caspian Sea. It's just called a lake because it's not connected to any other body of water.
You know what? Yes. Fine.
I don't make the rules. I don't call what
clearly.
things are called seas or lakes or whatever. But yeah, there we go. We have a body of water. Then finally, to the west, what do we have? We have a square about half the size of the rectangle. And that's Mesopotamia, where all of the action has been in the past episode.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, Mesopotamia is comparatively small, but it has a lot of interesting stuff going on. And also, just above Mesopotamia, between it and between it and the Caspian Sea, is a mountain range, which is the Caucasus, which is basically what separates Europe from Asia in this part of the world. And even here, very high mountains, lots of people living in those mountains, taking advantage of the fact that the mountains are high and dangerous.
Seems logical.
So,
I like it.
A lot of cool stuff. But one last thing we need to go through. So, inside the rectangle itself, in the bottom left section is Persia. That bottom left corner is what Persia is. This is where the center of our action is going to be usually. While just above that, between it and the Caspian Sea, is Media, which is where all the Median kings that we're going to be covering are going to live and come from.
Deioces.
Yes, Deioces. Finally, we can go to him.
What's the rest of the rectangle?
The rest of the rectangle is currently not important.
Oh.
It is...
Wow.
There's
How underwhelming.
There's Parthia, Bactria, Sogdiana. There are a lot of different places, but we'll get to them when we get to them.
I regret asking.
Yeah. We'll get to them when we actually conquer them. It's okay. We don't own them now. No need to look into them too far.
We're not even in Persia. We're in Media. So, I guess.
So, Deioces has different sources that mention him. So one of them is a contemporary Assyrian source, which is, since at the same time is the one that's more historically grounded and the one that we are more likely to find it to be true. But we also have some Greek sources from about 250 years later,
Mm.
which tell us a better story, and which is why we're starting from Deioces. But again, they're more distant and they're sort of connected to the later Persian Empire, so they sort of know what's going to happen in the future.
Okay.
But for reasons that you're going to find out later on, we're going to start with the Assyrian version of the story and then move on to the Greeks.
I see.
So we can get the more grounded version first and then go into the more fantastical.
Yes, the version from the people living at the time.
Yeah,
and
basically.
then the historical one.
Right, so according to the Assyrian sources, there is apparently a man called Deioces, who is the governor of a certain region at the far borders of the Assyrian Empire. So let's set the scene a little bit. In Media, there is a small kingdom containing a people called the Manaeans.
Right. I know them.
Yes, that makes sense. We did talk about them, I think, in our own test episode at some point.
Yes.
So there are these Manaean people
Right.
at the eastern edge of the Assyrian Empire. They are bordering a people in the Caucasus called the Urartians.
Mm-hmm.
Now, where's Deioces? Deioces is apparently a governor of the kingdom of Manea, who is just at the border with Urartu. So, where does the story become dramatic? Well, apparently, Deioces' son was being held hostage by the Urartians.
Okay.
So, what does he do? Well, he decides that he's going to go support the Urartian king against his own people, the Manaeans,
Okay.
so that he can get his son back since it was a hostage.
Yeah. Like, oh, we have your son, so now either you help us or you'll never see him again?
Yeah, that sort of thing. We don't get that much detail, but we can assume that it was something of the sort, or it was just Deioces saying, you know what, I'm just going to flip with the people who hold my son and let's avoid going with the Manaeans.
Oh, well, that's worse.
Yeah, based on what the Assyrians are telling us, it looks like Deioces just had this plan and decided, you know what, I'm going to move to the side of the people who could potentially threaten me and betray my own liege lord and start this sort of flipping across the border.
If you can't beat them, join them? Is that a saying in English?
Yeah, if you can't beat them, join them.
Okay.
Yes.
I was translating that from Spanish.
So what happened? Well, a war started when Deioces decided to just change his allegiance. But the problem is that the Manaeans were a subject people of the Assyrian Empire, which is the largest empire in the world at the moment, and are very unhappy about a rebellion happening in their subject. So basically the Assyrian Empire, which was massive and colossal and just
Scary.
next door,
Yeah.
decided, hey, no, you're not going to steal land from one of my subjects, I'm going to invade you.
Uh-huh.
So the king Sargon II, who was one of the great Assyrian kings, decided to march eastwards and absolutely destroyed Deioces and his rebellion. So he managed to take all of his land, dethrone him, and exile him and all his family to Syria, where he died unknown.
Deioces is who we're ranking today, yes?
Yes, and this is why we're also using Greek sources.
We're not doing great
Yeah.
so far.
Yeah, the idea is that we're not sure if this Deioces is the real Deioces that the Greeks are talking about.
Right.
Because, yeah, some historians recognize that, okay, this guy is called Deioces, so fair enough, it makes sense that that would be the name.
Yeah.
Other historians say, but his story ended terribly, he doesn't have a kingdom anymore, how is he the guy that starts a dynasty?
Yeah. That was kind of a terrible move on his part, and now he's done already.
Yeah, he tried and he failed miserably.
Yes.
So it's unclear. Some people say that, oh yes, maybe he was exiled with his immediate family, but his son was allowed to keep control of the little kingdom they had. That went on normally, but yeah, it's a bit unclear about whether is he the actual founder of the Median state.
Very underwhelming. If we're founding all of this in a small little kingdom that hasn't gone anywhere so far, except, almost to war with its own king because the son was kidnapped.
Yeah, it's not a good start for him.
I am so confused right now.
No, yes. But fortunately, the Greeks care enough about him that we know some more, and there's like an actual good story out of that.
Oh, well, great. Because
So,
I was
yes.
starting to get real worried about this first episode.
Yes, the Assyrian version, not worth writing home for. But we're interested in the Greek version of the story, which
Right.
is the fun part, and I'll let you know how we know about the Greeks. So before this, we need to talk about who is our Greek source, because he is fun and wonderful, and I
Oh.
love him, and he'll be with us for a long time.
I'm feeling a little bit of a bias here.
Yeah, he's nice. I'll explain all the problems with him, but he's
Oh.
nice.
I see.
So this person who we're going to be following is the father of history, Herodotus of Halicarnassus.
Oh, Herodotus, yes.
Yes, he is the first person to write history in the Greek model. And yeah, he is where we get the word history. His book is called The History.
Oh,
So
and what did it mean back then?
it's basically historion, which sort of means the tale. It's sort of like the story in a
Right.
way, but how we wrote it in his Greek, that became the basis of history. What
Fun.
is it?
First
So, yeah.
historian ever.
Yes, the first historian ever in this sort of model. And he writes this at the beginning of his history. He doesn't just want to say, oh, this is a list of what happened at the end.
Yeah.
In his book, he wants to try and explain why the Greeks and the Persians came into conflict. And to do that, he's going through each of their histories and explaining how it works and how
Right.
it goes.
So actually going into their pasts and not just writing down what's happening in the moment, but trying to find the reasons throughout.
Yeah, he's trying to say, okay, what chain of events led us this far?
Oh, quite
and how does it-
interesting.
Yeah, so it's a new way of viewing this,
Yeah,
which is quite
I-
interesting.
Well, I've grown up reading history this way, right? That's how you learn about it in school. So it's very funny that you wouldn't. Of course, it had to start at some point. Someone had to write it this way.
Yeah, because before that, in a lot of state monuments, you would just have a list of a king saying, "Oh, I conquered A, B, C, D, E, F, G." While Herodotus is saying, "Okay, they went to war for this reason. They had trouble for this other reason. They succeeded for this reason, and this is how it ended up happening, and this is the consequences of that action."
Nice.
Which
Very
is an
fun.
interesting and useful thing to have, especially for if you're a historian. It's good to have a historian telling you things.
I am getting flashbacks to my high school history class and my essays in exams. Yes, explain the causes and the reasons for this and this conflict. Thank
Yeah,
you,
so
Herodotus.
It's good to have things from Herodotus. And yeah, Herodotus is actually a bit of a funny version of this, though, because since he's starting history, it's a bit weird.
Yes, I could. That makes sense.
Because he starts everything by sort of planning on writing a travel guide.
Oh, fun.
So he decided to write a travel guide going around the Persian Empire, him traveling,
Mm-hmm.
sort of in the order in which they were conquered by the Persians. And in doing this, he goes around and asks the local people stories, tell me what these pyramids are, why are they here, how long did it take to build them, or, tell me what are your burial customs, and goes around, gathers a lot of information about these people.
That's so cool. And then he's getting like first-hand, well, probably not first-hand because some of the things would be like by generations past, but
Yeah, it's
he
either
gets
generation.
the story of the actual place from the people who
Yeah,
live there.
talks
That's
with
awesome.
the people there, and also, potential merchants from far-off lands and all that sort of thing. So he manages to build up this whole set of information, and then he decides, okay, you know what, I can make a cool story out of this. Let me weave it together into something where I can explain the rise of Persia and its contact with Greece.
So is this absolutely objective? No.
No, there are many reasons why it isn't objective. So many reasons.
Is this just a guy taking a bunch of stories and being like, let me write a novel with all of them?
Yeah, sort of. Well, first of all, it's weird as a document of history because I remember I was kind of shocked the first time I was reading Herodotus because he says, okay, and now I'm going to tell you about how this certain king conquered Egypt. It's like, okay, Herodotus, good to hear, nice. But then he says, okay, but wait just a second, before I tell you that, let me tell you something about Egyptian culture. It's like, okay, interesting,
Nice. We're setting
why
the
not,
scene.
sure.
I don't know about it, so
Yeah. And then he goes through an entire book describing Egyptian customs, goes all the way through trying to describe like, oh, the pyramids and oh, crocodile burials and oh, cats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then at the end he says, oh yeah, by the way, I need to still tell you about the invasion. I'll tell you in the next book.
Clickbait!
Yeah,
I hate it!
Come on. And I had to buy a new book to read that, so no, Herodotus, why?
He clickbaited you in like, I don't know, 2,000 years?
Yes, it was a long-term clickbait, but yeah, it happened that way.
That's hilarious, actually. I am now his fan. Yes.
He is very fun with that. But yeah, as you've mentioned, he's not reliable for a series of reasons. So first of all, is that, well, for our purposes, he is a Greek. He isn't a native of Persia, so he may misunderstand many things or maybe
Indeed.
want to paint them in a different light because he is coming from a period of conflict between Greece and Persia.
We know how this goes, you know.
Yeah, so he's not going to be entirely objective. And also in his travels, he might be talking with people who themselves might either particularly like Persia or dislike them or have their own biases.
Yeah, this is not a fully objectively researched document. It's more of a tell me your story and I'll put it in my book.
Yeah, it's a lot more
Colloquial.
Yeah, colloquial in a way. It's
people be people.
Yeah, it's just asking people, okay, tell me the legends of this place. Oh, okay. You know.
I kind of love it. It might not tell us an accurate history of what happened, but it might tell us a lot about him specifically and the people at the time.
Yeah, it tells us a lot about what the people were interested in. So, for example, with Deioces, he's the founder of Persia. So we don't really get so much of the real Deioces in a way, but more about how he was remembered or perceived by.
And that's also important to know.
Yeah, so that's a valuable thing to know about his character.
So far, Deioces, not a great founder. So please
No.
give me something to...
Herodotus will rehabilitate him. But yeah, a couple of extra things about Herodotus because he's very cool. So the first one is that he isn't going to be objective for one more reason.
Oh, great.
Because his history was meant to be read out in public in Athens.
Oh, I see.
So this is a problem in a couple of ways. Firstly, because, well, Athens is going to look good because that's your crowd. You don't want to speak poorly about your own crowd.
Insult your public, yeah.
And secondly, because all of this is going to need to keep some lay people's attention. So you need to add fun anecdotes, interesting stories, morals, that sort of thing, which makes a public stay, even if maybe they don't especially care about what happened in Persia.
You need to put a couple of jokes in there, keep the audience attention.
Yeah, it's basically like a podcast.
Make it relatable, talk to the kids these days.
Yeah, talk to the youths. But yeah, one last cool thing is looking at the Far East. So Herodotus is sometimes called not just the father of history, but the father of lies. Because of all this unreliability, which I think is a little bit unfair, because I don't think he's doing it on purpose. He's just not too rigorous with his research.
I mean, I don't think his purpose was to deceive people, but it's not like he's trying to be objective in any way.
He's just trying to tell a good story is the point, which is why he's an excellent source for this podcast. But, it's not the most reliable of people. But yeah, one of the cool things he talks about in the Far East is, first of all, he talks about griffins in the steppe.
Yeah.
Guarding nests of gold.
Awesome.
And also there are ants the size of dogs in India which dig up gold.
Ants?
Yes.
What? Do they have a mythological name too, or are they just ants?
No, they're just giant ants.
Ah, okay.
And the cool thing is that some scholars have been looking into these claims, and they may have found them to be true.
No.
Which is really cool.
Wait,
so
the ants?
And the griffins.
What? Okay.
So
I'm listening.
The griffins apparently stem from the mythology of the people of the steppe who live there. And the interesting thing is that in that area of the Asian steppe, there are many skeletons of protoceratops.
Oh, yes, baby.
Which are generally buried there with their own nests. And given the environment of it, they were easy to sort of unearth just naturally through the wind. And the people crossing there who were hunting for gold would find these strange creatures with a back sort of like a lion and a front sort of like a bird.
I love it.
And that is supposedly where the idea of griffins comes
So
from.
they found dinosaur fossils and they were like, this animal's wild.
Yeah, and nobody ever saw one, but
the bones are there.
Yeah, but since the bones are there, it's
There's
like,
even eggs.
It has to
Look
be
to
there.
That, for those of you who might not know what a protoceratops looks like, you probably know what a triceratops looks like. A protoceratops is just smaller and with just one horn.
I don't remember if it has any horns at all.
Okay, but the shape is similar, just no horns and a beak, mouth, and kind of built like an elephant.
Yeah, it's a cool animal, but yeah, it's fun that people unearthed it and
and the size would be, because they were relatively small dinosaurs, so the size would be like a lion, like
it would be roughly
European
as you would expect.
Lion.
So this is one of the first instances of paleontology and reconstructing a fossilized creature.
That's awesome. I love this. Okay.
But
so far, I don't love Deioces much, but
he's coming. He's coming at some point. But the last bit is what about the ants? What about the giant ants the size of dogs?
Oh yeah, I had forgotten, sorry. Dinosaurs were too interesting.
Apparently, these ants weren't really ants, but just giant groundhog-like things, which exist in India. And dig into the mountains. They're like marmots. Sort of thing. So apparently they are giant marmots, which live in the mountains in the Himalayas, and they tend to dig up a lot of stuff, and these areas were full of gold dust, so they dig up gold.
Mm-hmm.
But why did they become ants?
Yeah, that's what's confusing me right now.
Well, apparently the Persian word for ant and the Persian word for marmot sound very similar to a Greek person.
Oh, right. Mistranslation.
Yeah, so either Herodotus, when he heard it from a Persian, maybe his Persian wasn't so good, so he misheard one for the other. And, it's the Far East.
Who knows?
He's never been there.
There's griffins.
Yeah, there's griffins. Why can't there be giant ants?
Gold digging ants? Sure. I mean, to be fair, gold digging marmots is also not something I would expect.
But yeah, so apparently Herodotus decided to write them as ants, and that's how they ended up there.
Wonderful. I love this.
So,
honestly, I'm really interested on all of these typical mythical creatures from different regions of the world and how they're based on either living animals or extinct animals and the stories that people weave around them.
It's always really fun to find the origins of dragons and all that sort of stuff.
Awesome.
But finally we can get to Deioces.
Oh,
Hooray!
dear. This man, please offer me something. Our first rating cannot be this bad.
Yes, it's going to be better. It'll work out. Okay, so Herodotus tells us that Deioces was a wise man in a village in Media. At the time, Media was not governed by any kings or rulers. Every village governed itself. Mm-hmm. It was in a pre-state society.
Okay.
So why is Deioces important? Well, Deioces was known in all of his village to be a very wise man who everybody could trust with his judgments. So it often happened that people came to him for little disputes. So say, Bob's goat came and ate from my field. I want compensation. Deioces, please tell us what we should do. And Deioces would say, okay, you can get 2 liters of the goat's milk as compensation. Go home and keep your goat tight.
Okay, so he was just a person that people would have in high esteem because he knew how to resolve conflict.
Yeah, he knew how to resolve conflicts and was very good, and everybody thought that, he was doing a good job at it.
Good job.
He was so good at this that his reputation spread out to the neighboring villages.
Oh, nice.
And more people came to Deioces saying, hey, Deioces, could you help me? We had this problem. We have a border dispute. No, my daughter ran away. What should we do?
It's a good skill to have, huh? Like being able to de-escalate conflict and like resolving a situation by empathizing and being just.
It's important to know how to do this.
It's almost like it's important to learn, huh?
Yeah. So Deioces, what does he do? As all these people come to him, he starts to think, nobody's paying me for this. I mean, it's a lot of pressure and a lot of work, and I'm not being rewarded for it at all. I mean, I appreciate helping my neighbors, but once it's the guy from 6 villages over,
once you
I'm
stop
kind of tired.
War between like the village on the up of the hill and the village on the down on the hill, and like it gets a bit out of hand. I can imagine it starts with the little pressure of like, oh, this child got an apple from my tree, and then it ends up with like, I am going to burn this whole village down if they don't do this. And, when so many lives depend on your decision, someone should pay for your therapy.
Yeah, it's not great. So Deioces decides, you know what, I'm done. This is enough for me. I'm okay. Nothing. I'm gonna stop judging all your stuff. Sort yourselves out.
Done forever. Goodbye.
So he retires to private life. But the problem is that everybody had become so dependent on his judgments that robbery and lawlessness begin to spread throughout the country.
Oh no.
As everybody says, oh well, if Deioces isn't here to tell us what's wrong or right, we can do whatever.
That backfired.
Yeah, so now everybody's worse off.
How did we get here?
Because Deioces was trying to be helpful.
Oh my god. This is why we can't have nice things.
No.
How did it... I would expect this to happen like throughout generations in like a community where you have some kind of system and you implement it over time and then you take it away and like as an experiment, But this happened within the man's lifetime, so what?
Yes, this was a lot. Ancient Medians apparently did not have...
People really said, oh, we don't need to think anymore. Deioces says what to do.
Yeah, they're like, Deioces is gone. Let's just not think and keep going. It's okay.
What's happening?
So what happens is that Deioces' friends start to see the situation and say, oh no, this doesn't look good. And they tell everybody, you know what? If Deioces were king of our country, like our neighbors are doing, he could probably just handle all this stuff and would be rewarded for it, so it would all be worth it. And everybody says, you know what, that's a good idea. Let's all make Deioces king. And Deioces says, fine, sure, I'll be king.
If you ask that way, I mean, I guess,
Yes. So, yeah, he's not too happy about it, but sure, he'll do it.
He's getting paid for it now, so...
Yeah, so finally he's a king with it, and he can get something out of it.
I hope he's not only being paid on exposure. Like, oh, you're king now, for sure, for real, yes.
You're king,
here's
you
your crown,
can smile
bye.
and wave, this is your exposure.
I assume he got money for it.
Yes, he did get money.
Some
which
kind
is
of...
quite... Yeah.
I don't know if money was a
Money
thing.
doesn't exist yet, but,
Yeah, some kind of compensation.
Yes. Nice food, I suppose.
A house, I don't know, clothes.
This is the innocent version that we get from Herodotus.
Lovely.
But there's a less innocent version from a later Greek called Polyaenus.
Hey! That sounds terrible. Oh my god,
yes,
that name.
It's not a good name.
It took me like a second to figure it out. Oh boy, I love him.
Yes.
Polyaenus. Too many jokes. Must resist. Oh god. Okay, continue.
Terrible. But yeah, in version of Polyaenus, it's not an innocent...
I promise I'm not 12. I was going to say, I'm sorry, I got distracted. I was going to say, it sounds very of the times, which might not be of the times, but like men's history of like putting your founding leader to be a figure to aspire to be and making him like, oh, he was so good, he didn't even want to rule, he just like out of the good of his heart made the place better, and then it was the people who were needed him to keep being good people, and he didn't even want the power, but he had,
Yeah.
Like, I've heard this tale before.
It's a very common thing among founding figures. We have another one later on which has a similar vibe. But yeah, he is a founding figure of the Median state, so of course they want to paint him to look good and be important and well-meaning.
You want people to be able to look up to them.
Yeah. Yeah, so Polyaenus, we don't really know where he gets his information, but might have made it up, but it's a good story, so here we go. So apparently, in this version, Deioces first obtains some guards to protect him, because he says, well, if I'm going to be doing all these judgments, I'm going to ruffle some feathers, and it's going to be important that somebody protects me and ensures that nothing goes wrong.
But hadn't people gotten mad before?
Apparently not.
And now they would?
This is what the evil twin Deioces is saying. So what does he do? One night in secret, he decided to fill his house with stones.
Okay, let's see where this is going.
So the next day, he shows up in front of the whole assembly of the Medes and says, "Look at my house, look what happened. It appears that people have been trying to murder me by stoning me to death in my sleep." because of all the judgments I do for you and all the good things I do, look, I was about to be killed.
Oh.
You know, the only way to be safe is if you build me a palace, and I can hide there with more guards. And if you
Lovely.
make me king, you know, otherwise I'm just going to leave and you'll be subject to lawlessness.
I mean, we have already established that people do not think for themselves in this village or in this region because, you know, they asked him to be king because apparently they couldn't be decent. So, yeah, I mean, go for it, Deioces. If, you know, free palace.
So this is the evil Deioces version versus the good Deioces version that Herodotus
Yeah.
gives us. So, let's see which is your favorite one.
I feel like they're both equally wrong. Like, I don't believe either.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably some middle ground of threats and promises.
I just don't think he did this at all. Of, like, being the wise person in the village who helped everybody.
I mean, it could have been just some random guy. We're not sure.
That might be because I'm biased by the beginning of this episode. It's still...
Yeah, the beginning of this episode is the closest one to reality that we could have, if it's the same character,
It's been
of course.
real underwhelming, and it's going to take a lot to climb back up. I promise I'm not going to be harsh to these kings of Persia who obviously care so much about my ranking, but, like, what an episode to start with.
Yeah, first episodes generally don't start with the most important person.
Well, like, I was expecting legend and inaccuracy, because, like, it's the furthest away in history we're going to go. So, obviously, like, I was expecting some made-up legend about this great king, since he's the founder, I'm sure, like, he did some amazing stuff. And we start with, like, yeah, he was king of a region. He betrayed the region because the other kingdom had his son. And then he got destroyed by this other king who actually came to aid his region that he should be actually caring about. And then he got deported and died. Yay! Wonderful.
Yeah, the Assyrian version isn't especially exciting. But Herodotus at least has fun stratagems and stuff.
Let's continue with this.
We'll keep going.
Let's
It'll
see.
be fine. Yeah, so Herodotus tells us that Deioces is the one that founded the Median capital city of Hagmatana,
Ah,
later called Ecbatana,
uh-huh.
which is the modern city of Hamadan in
Oh,
Iran.
okay. I see.
So Herodotus tells us that the city looks very, very cool. So there were large and strong walls in 7 concentric circles,
Ooh.
each taller than the towers of the previous one. So it's basically a climbing pyramid structure of walls.
Basing say.
Yes, it's basically Basing Se.
Wonderful.
But it has the cool stuff because the walls are all colored in different
Ooh.
way. So the first one is white, second one is black, third one is crimson, fourth blue, fifth red, the sixth one is coated in silver, and the seventh one is coated in gold.
Weird combination, but I'm here for it.
And in the centermost bit, we have the palace complex, where there's the royal palace and all the treasure houses for Deioces to swim around in like Scrooge McDuck.
Right.
Apparently, according to Herodotus, the largest wall was as long as the wall around Athens in 430, which sounds a bit unlikely, but, Athens at its height was pretty big.
Okay. So
A bit unlikely. Actually, it's interesting that these 7 walls in different colors might have actually been talking about a ziggurat,
right.
which is sort of like, to picture it roughly, it's sort of like a step pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
So you could imagine that the 7 layers could have been these sort of 7 steps going higher and higher into
Okay.
this temple-like structure.
But it also could have been the whole city.
Or it could have just been, a series of concentric walls, however.
Do the colors have any meaning?
I looked into it, but I couldn't really find anything too specific about it. I just thought it was...
It's just curious that they have crimson and red when they're pretty similar.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the exact reasoning behind that might be, but...
Like, which red? Which pigment? I'm sorry.
It's probably going
I'm
to be
getting
like
to a-
brick red. That
Yeah.
sounds like a good wall color.
Silver and gold, I get. White and black, sure.
Mhm.
And then crimson, blue, and red. I need to draw this. It'll be fun to figure out what it looked like.
Yeah, it's a fun concentric city is the point. And all the colors, you can assign your own meanings. And find out that actually that was the symbolism all along.
I see. Use them in your TTRPG campaign, folks.
Yeah, that's a free design there. There you go.
Have each wall have a different effect on the region of the city.
Yeah. Oh, that would be really cool.
Anyway, back to
But
history.
yes, anyway. Back to history. Deioces, in Herodotus' version as well, asks to get a bodyguard so he can build his new city. And apparently all of this walled section was only for him and his guards, and everyone else would live outside. So immediately after a kingdom is established, it degenerates into despotism, according to the
wonderful.
Greeks. Who
But
don't
he
like
didn't
kings.
want to rule. Come on, he was such a good man.
Yeah, he was nice. He was just, doing it for everyone else, because
Yeah.
you don't want to have a king that lives in a shabby place. That would be disappointing.
Yeah, you need to be differentiated from the poor people. So
Yeah, it needs to be very differentiated from the poor people, because he establishes rules that nobody could come into his presence, except through messengers, that no man could see him, and nobody should laugh or spit in his presence.
oh, sad. I mean, I understand the spitting, but like nobody laughs when
No
you're
jokes,
around.
nothing.
Are you sure?
Must be awkward when Deioces makes a joke that nobody can laugh, but
Yeah, I guess he wasn't a very comical fella.
sounds like he wouldn't be that, no.
The only thing I can think about right now is just that scene in the Monty Python. Do you think it's funny when I say Dickus? Dickus? This is the only thing.
Yes, nobody could watch any Monty Python.
Oh no.
They would just be dragged away and executed for laughing.
Poor bodyguard.
So sad.
I bet this happened.
So many times.
Do you know what his wife was called?
Incontinentia. Incontinentia buttocks.
Anyway, I hope there's some Monty Python fans out there. who got
I'm
that.
sure there are.
I feel the Venn
Everywhere.
diagram of history nerds and Monty Python fans is...
A circle.
Nah. Well...
It's a funny looking ellipse.
Yes. Fair.
So back to Deioces. He apparently ensured that nobody could see him physically, that he would have to always go behind a curtain so that he couldn't be seen.
Dear Deioces, do you have anything you want to talk about? Do you have body issues? Like, that's normal. Therapy's a thing.
Yeah, apparently it's not been invented yet. And,
Oh.
even
Right.
Freud's far away, so the best you can do is just hide yourself in a palace.
Honestly, mood. I relate. Continue.
If you have a palace to hide into, why not? But apparently this was done so that the men of his own age, who knew him when he was just a dude, wouldn't plot against him and think, oh, he's some sort of
That's
godlike
hilarious.
figure now. Ooh, let's not mess with Deioces anymore. And apparently he would administer justice by having people write their pleas and send them to him by mail. And then
Okay.
he would just write a reply and send it back through messengers.
Wow, he really said, no more social contact, please, thank
He
you.
decided that first round where everybody was coming to him was too much.
Yeah.
No more people now.
Yeah, good introvert. I relate.
And he also established a spy system of watchers and listeners,
Uh-huh.
which are apparently the ancestors of the Achaemenid eyes and ears of the king, who would go all around his realm to listen and watch for anything that might be interesting to the king or that might be a threat to the established order. So now, after all of this time going from a stateless society, Deioces has managed to consolidate power into a true kingdom like the rest
Yeah.
of the
For a
the
man
rest of
who-
the Middle Eastern world.
Was not interested in ruling, he sure knew what he had to do to
Yeah,
rule.
he managed to organize everything very well.
Sounds like a delightful little city. Big brother watching and all.
Yeah, it's a lot, and especially from a Greek point of view, since they didn't like kings, and they were from an Athenian point of view
Yeah.
more than everything.
They had
They
some
don't like
kind of
kings and that
democracy.
sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, as long as you're not a woman or poor or
That's why I
foreigner
said some kind of
or a
democracy.
slave. It's fine. It's better than Sparta anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after this, Deioces united all of the Medians, all of the different tribes, among which were apparently the Magi,
Oh,
who
do
are
they do magic?
that is where the word magic comes from.
No, tell me about this.
Yes, because the Magi are a series of priests of Zoroastrianism, which is the religion we have roughly in this area. The timing is a bit weird.
Mm-hmm.
But the Magi are this class of priests that, due to their perceived mystical properties from the Western audiences, they were seen as magicians, and that's where the word magic comes from. And also, if you know your nativity story, the wise men
Oh, yes, the three wise men.
Yes, the wise men are called the three magi because they come from the east and they have strange religious powers, and these are these magi.
Yeah, and because they're cool and they're magical because they go around the world in their camels and leave presents for children on the night of the 5th of January. Don't you know this?
Yeah, I mean, that's pure science.
Yeah.
It's simple facts.
Who's that Santa Claus I keep hearing about? That's
fine. Santa Claus is a poser. He comes later on. So finally, all the Medians are united, and we have the Magi among them, and all the different tribes are joined. So Media together is now a full kingdom under the power of Deioces. And Deioces apparently continued ruling in this fashion for 53 years, until he died unremarkably, and left the kingdom to his son, Phraortes.
I am writing down that he united Media and ruled for 53 years, because that's the most impressive stuff I've had so far.
He built a fancy city,
and
it looks
and
pretty.
the walls, because that's cool. But, the fact that he left literally everyone in the kingdom outside of the city is kind of not fun.
Yeah, not ideal. But
who lived in the city? Like his guards and him, and that's it?
Pretty much.
Wait,
that sounds
for real?
like it. I think that was it. It was just a man cave.
Very empty city. I think I'm buying the temple.
Yeah, it could be more of a temple version
now. Yeah, because the whole city seems a bit empty.
Yeah, it's also the size that Herodotus gives us is way out of proportion with.
Well, yeah, he mentioned it was like Athens, right?
It was like Athens at its height in its glory days.
And there's one man living there and his gods.
Yeah, it's a bit weird.
It's a community of gods. They open the little tea shops and the little.
Yeah, it's very cute. It's very nice on weekends, but yeah, problematic if you want to have more people go around and help you.
Yeah, there's something here that doesn't add up.
Yeah, so this is what we get from this man who lived 2,700 years ago. Long time, but the information that we have is a bit spotty.
Yeah, because Herodotus was not a contemporary from this.
Herodotus lived 250-ish years after this,
right.
So these are stories that he heard from a guy who heard them from a guy who heard them from a guy.
It's like if we're starting to write about the 18th century.
I mean, yeah, this is sort of like asking a random American on the street, tell me about George Washington.
Right.
And you'd say, oh yeah, there was that cherry tree thing, and he had wooden teeth, and I don't know, he has a wig, I think, and he's on our money.
That'd be awesome, actually.
So
just write a new history just by what the average American knows about the revolution and the founding of the US.
Yeah, so, there's a sort of the basic, like, imagine your national heroes in your own country and think about what the average person would say about them. Like, you can come up with a few facts. It's like, oh yeah, I vaguely remember this story that's meant to show their character.
We also have history now, and we learned this in school.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if somebody didn't learn it but just learned it through folk stories, then it's a bit more
fun.
Difficult. It's like Robin Hood. It's like, maybe.
Cool.
But yeah, so that is all the information that we have about Deioces. Short fellow, but now it's time to rate him.
Oh boy,
Hooray!
I'm excited about
first
this.
First rating.
I did not expect someone like this for a first rating. This is going to be very funny.
Yeah, things are going to escalate in amount of information, but yeah, these first few, Deioces is like a paragraph and a half in Herodotus. So.
And not a good one.
Yeah, not with his neighbors. So the first category is final moments. How interesting was his death? We don't know anything about his death.
I was going to say, did we mention it?
No, he died at some point, or he's
Syria.
A cool vampire. That's true. There are two versions of his death. In Herodotus' version, he just fades away after 53 years. In the Assyrian version, he's deported and dies far from home in Syria.
Oh, okay. Yes. So Herodotus does not mention that he ran away.
No, Herodotus doesn't mention that whole war and everything. In Herodotus' version, that doesn't exist. Which is why some people wonder, is it really the same figure, or was Deioces just off-screen in the Assyrian version doing his own stuff?
Yeah, I feel like we're talking about two men.
There's a lot of arguments around.
But let's pretend it's the same person.
Yeah, let's assume.
It's very funny to me that he just fades at some point, but we know it's 53 years of rule.
Yeah, it's also very weird because the timings are really off. It's
I assume it's because we know when his son starts being king?
We don't know. His son is also semi-mythical.
I
His
bet.
grandson we know about. We have actual dates and actual people telling us about him.
Like, if you had said 50 years, I'd be like, that's a round number. People might have said, yeah, around 50 years he ruled. But like 53?
Yeah, it looks like Herodotus was sort of working backwards from the kings that were around at his time and sort of trying to fix things. But again, even here, it's unclear if Deioces' reign started in 727 BC, sorry, or if in 700 BC. It depends all on how you reconstruct this, because the dates are very messy.
So poor Herodotus, honestly, to give him some credit, was just trying to reverse engineer. Okay, I know this is where we are now. This is around how much time we have between this and this happens. This is how long it should have lasted.
Yeah, he was trying to ask people that he knew, saying, hey, please tell me about this guy. How many years did he reign? It's like, I don't know, roughly 53, I suppose.
How old were you when this happened?
Yeah.
I don't know, like 6 or 7, man.
Yeah, 6 or 7. My grandfather told me this at one point. So how impressed are you with the death? Let's use both of them in, because it's not getting much from Herodotus.
Like minus 30? I don't...
So sad.
What is our scale? 0 to 10?
Yeah, 0 to 10.
0. He just died at some point. We don't know from what. He might not have died in his kingdom, but like he just
Yeah, I was thinking of maybe a 1 for the Syria thing, but meh.
Really?
No.
No.
Sorry, Deioces. 0 for final moments. Next time, die better. Next one is battle hardness. So, how well did he fight?
Not at all.
I mean,
and when in the Assyrian version, he sided with the enemy and then got completely trampled by... Wait, I have notes. Sargon II. And in the Herodotus version, was there a...
he united media, which doesn't tell us that it was
battled
through war. It could have just been very persuasive.
Because I felt like if the villages around the region were already listening to him, then he just was like, okay, I'm your king now.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a warrior king.
I'm not saying he didn't do something good, because I mean, he made a city and he united a region, and like that will have repercussions in the future.
Later on.
But battle related?
Yeah, battle related...
0.
Nah, yeah, sorry. Because, yeah, the only thing he potentially fought was the terrible loss that destroyed him, so let's not do that. So 0 again for Deioces. This is starting perfectly.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Why did you choose him as the first one?
Because Herodotus chooses him. It's important for context.
God damn it, Herodotus.
He'll improve, he'll be better, he'll have fun stuff. Next category is scheminess. So how schemy is he? How manipulative? And
according to Polyaenus, I will not laugh, apparently he was a terrible person who was just taking advantage from the good people around the village. And being like, look at this, look at what someone did to me. I definitely need more money and more guards and a palace and for you to leave the city that I'm building. Okay, bye.
Yeah, so Polyaenus is the most mustache-twirling villain of them all. Herodotus also has it a little bit, because he institutes like a whole spy network around his village to try and build things up.
Keep it under control, because everything's going great. There's no war at Basingse.
Yeah, I mean, it's there, so you can't see anything out of it. Yeah. You can't even go look into Basingse, so of course there's no war in it.
Yeah.
Also from the Assyrian version, you hear that he is colluding with the enemy.
That's true, yeah.
Of his kingdom to try and get his son back.
I guess he cared for his son, which, good points there.
Good quality, but,
I don't know.
I feel like there's a little bit of scheminess in there.
I'd say like a 4.
4?
It's not impressive scheminess. It's just like, okay,
Yeah, so it's okay. We also don't get too many details, but I like the house stratagem. That's fun.
Yeah, filling it with... How big do you think the stones were?
I feel like it's like a fist-sized stone.
Or like
the size that you could throw into someone's... I mean, if you're throwing boulders in someone's house, I would be scared for different reasons.
I mean, it
would... I'd want to hire the boulder chucking guy.
The boulder chucker.
Yeah, boulder chucker. Chuck.
Oh, beautiful job title. No, I'm saying you would need so many to fill a whole house. Like, how high do you think he filled it? Like, just the floor? Or, like, up to your knees.
I'm feeling like a good floor covered in rocks.
And just
would
every
be my
rock
level.
happened to land where no other rocks were, so you covered
Yeah, it
the
was
whole
all
thing.
perfectly tessellated. It was beautiful.
So you can then cobble,
Basically
have a whole
refloored
path.
his house, but
Perfect.
it was fun.
Maybe that's what he was doing. Just reflooring his house.
Yeah, everybody just terrible misunderstanding.
I see. I see how this region works the way it works.
Yeah, it's just medians starting.
Sorry, medians.
It's fine. There aren't any left. It's okay.
I'm willing to go up to a 5.
Sorry, vampire medians. So, sorry?
I'm willing to go up to a 5.
Up to a 5? What am I willing to do?
I don't know. I don't know about the rest of the kings, so I don't know if this is
Yeah.
way too high or
it's
too
reasonable
low.
enough.
I feel like we should redo these once we have more to compare it to.
We can do a redux at some point.
Yeah.
But, what about, I'm going, adding up all the different stories, I think a 5 is acceptable.
I think it's too much, but go ahead.
It's not going to get many points elsewhere, so let's go for it.
For Deioces.
Shock factor is the next category. So how shocking is he? How scandalous? How...
Confusing.
Yes.
What's happening?
He is very confusing.
Does he exist? Is he one man? Is he two? Do we have any stories of someone named Deioces, at all, that refer to an actual person? We don't know. Is Herodotus making it up? Is Polianus just a funny dude with a funny name? Who knows?
Yes, those are all interesting and important questions.
The implications.
We know nothing.
I can't.
Corkboard and string. Where is he? But yeah, shock factor, what I could add here is that, he builds a city/temple complex for himself. He takes the kingship from a previously anarchical people.
Fair, yes.
Well, he potentially colludes with the enemy and switches sides against them.
People really made a terrible mistake when they decided, let's not have anarchy anymore. Let's put a dude in charge. And then everything went wrong.
Yeah, this is presented mostly as a terrible mistake from
Yeah.
Herodotus.
I feel that.
But yeah, so shock factor does a lot of weird, sketchy stuff. But on the flip side, he is also generally a just judge that people go to.
Yeah.
And he's just trying to do a good job.
I think I'd give him a 3 for the weird stories and the cool painted walls, which I'm still totally going to look up the colors and see if they have any meaning, because why?
Yeah, that is a bit weird. So you're going with a 3 for shock factor. What am I going to do? I'm going to do, let's say, 1 point for the private city, 1 point for becoming king, 1 point for the Assyrian stuff. I'm also going to go with a 3. We're very matchy-matchy today.
Perfect.
Shock factor is a total of 6 points. Next is Aaron Shine. So how good was he for his country? Well, he created it.
We don't know. Is this a good decision? Is this a bad decision? Is everyone going to die? Well, eventually, but
Yeah. The good thing is that eventually the empire continues, and it's called a Median Empire, not a Median Village, which is good, I suppose.
This is about the Persian Empire.
Yes, but the Persian Empire is going to spring from the Median Empire.
Okay. So, I guess good.
So yeah, on the good side, he built the capital of Media.
And didn't let anybody in.
True. He also established kingship in Media, so he turned it from a basically semi-barbarian countryside into something that was a united country.
And again, I'm not entirely sure that was a good idea.
But if you want to resist the Assyrians from crushing you, you want to be organized enough that you can fight back.
Fair. The Assyrians, very scary people.
Yes, the Assyrians will, make a beautiful mural of 65 ways to impale you, so you want to make sure that you can defend yourself against these people.
Okay, fair. Did they? Did this help?
It will, yes.
Okay.
We'll find out next episode that it did help. But this is a little bit like the Germanic peoples on the border of the Roman Empire that started very vague and unincorporated. And then eventually you get big globs of people like the Franks and the Alemanni and the Vandals and all that. So
it makes sense to be organized in some way.
Yeah, basically, the more you work together, the stronger you get to be.
Yeah.
So he builds Media, builds the capital, creates kingship, and he also institutes the eyes and ears of the king.
Yeah.
You can see how well that could go.
That stays.
That does stay at least until the Achaemenids.
Oh, I can't wait for the drama.
There's a lot of spy drama, yes.
Oh, heck yeah, it's the best. Okay, fair.
So,
I
yeah.
guess he was good for the... Like, I'm fairly certain we'll have some kings that are bad for the Empire.
Yes, or some that are very
He wasn't bad for the Empire, he just made it. It would be hilarious if he was directly bad for the Empire, like immediately destroyed it.
Starting by destroying it, yeah.
But we would not be talking about them in this podcast then.
Yeah. And also another factor is that he was a good judge.
Hey, that's true, yeah.
You know.
He's supposed to be like a good
Yeah,
person.
that is the whole reason why it started.
Sensible and with his head well put on his shoulders, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm feeling like a 4-ish. I don't know,
5.
You. 5? Okay.
Well, again, you have knowledge of the kings that are to come. I don't.
Yeah,
So you can
true.
probably compare, and you know.
Yeah, we'll find later on, but that's a reasonable
We're just getting started.
estimate. That works. So with a 4 and a 5, that is a total of 9 out of 20 for Aaron Shine. Next category is Face of Faces.
Let's
I
go.
can show you what he looks like.
Oh, we have a face.
So we have a face.
Wait. Let me
It's absolutely
draw him
not
first.
contemporary. Yes, draw him.
So
So in the meantime, I'll let you know that we don't have any contemporary images of
I
Deioces
imagine.
because, well, he's lost in the mists of history. We don't know. The only images that we have, or the one I managed to find, is a painting by Louis Boulanger, who was a romantic French painter from the 1800s.
Oh, so totally accurate, I assume.
Yeah, and it's pretty much an illustration of Herodotus, where it's showing, oh yes, look at Deioces, early pages of the text. This is what he looks like, and here you have him.
I'm gonna give him a beard.
Beards are a good thing to have. Beards are going to be very popular for the next 300 years, 400.
And, I don't know, long hair.
That is a very hat-like hair. I like it.
That's totally what he looked like. I'm
Yes,
saying.
that is objective. There's a nice speech bubble here that says, "Oh no, I don't want to rule, trust me, ...
Totally.
And he's looking very trustworthy.
Totally not interested.
Look at him. So good.
Gonna give him some cool, like, necklace jewels or something.
Yeah, he's got to have jewels. Come on. So yes, so I will show you what Deioces look like.
He does have a beard in this.
Is this guy here. You can't see him. His back is turned, but he's pointing towards the Medians and telling them to go and conquer and be powerful.
This is hilarious.
Yes, he has a little...
He has a cool hat.
Yeah, he basically has a nice robe and a coconut hat.
Yep,
Basically
it looks like half a coconut.
Yes.
Well, fuzzy.
Yeah, half a fuzzy
and a
coconut.
white beard with kind of long-ish hair. Because we see his profile, like, almost looking away completely from the viewer, so...
And he's pointing in the distance saying, go forth.
He looks a bit older than I drew, but, like, you know, white hair and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it works. It's close enough. It works reasonably well.
It's absolutely 100% accurate for sure. No artistic liberties were taken.
No, of course not. This Victorian Frenchman was fine.
Yeah,
So,
he looks like what I imagined.
okay, so what are you going to rate him out of 10? What does this portrait tell you?
Well, given the fact we don't really have any portraits,
Yeah, I'm going to dock some points if it's not contemporary, personally.
I don't know, like a 7.
7? Okay. I'm going to go... I was going to aim for a 6 on its own, but the non-contemporary
Yeah.
shoots it down a bit, so I'm going to go with a 4, honestly.
Oh, wow. I might go down to a 6.
You're going down to 6?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, these ratings are all over the place. This will make no sense with... Once we have, like, 10 episodes, this first one will make no sense.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't think he's much at risk of displacing some of the best ones, so we'll
You
find
gotta
out.
start somewhere.
At least we get our practice in.
Humble beginnings.
Another good part of starting with Deioces is that we can get our practice in before getting to the Great. 'Cause
Oh,
starting
yes.
with the Great as a first episode
Please no.
is a lot.
Yeah.
Like, cool, but also, oh no.
I've heard you on your research. I know there's a lot of the grades, and oh dear.
Yeah, there is a ridiculous amount of them, so we'll find out. But yeah, so overall, Face of Faces, it's going to be 2.5 points out of 5 for our
Fine.
Deioces.
Yeah, you know, halfway.
Yeah,
Not
not
bad.
too bad. And finally, the category which is going to be kindest to him is lengthiness,
Yeah.
where we just take his length in years and divide it by 10.
Unlike Herodotus, this is actually objective.
Yes.
Except,
I mean, the
The
date
length
comes
of-
from Herodotus.
yeah,
but
except
still,
we don't actually know how long he reigned, or if he reigned at all. So let's go.
This is the most objective thing we can do. But yeah, we get out of lengthiness 5.3 points because he reigns 53 years. So overall, Deioces gains 5.3 in lengthiness, which is higher than the maximum of 5, but he needs the help.
Oh, so the max we get to is 5 in the whole empire?
I mean, it's roughly 5 is the idea. Somebody's going to rule for 70 years, but
Whoa, I can't wait. That sounds
he's
awesome.
cool, but it's in a while. So overall, the total sum of his points is 32.8 out of 100 points for Deioces, which
Fair.
honestly isn't terrible.
That's
Could
how
have
I
been
would
worse.
rate this in Yelp. Deioces, not really what was expected. Most of it wasn't really reliable. Fun stories though. Cool city design. 3 out of 10, sure.
3 out of 10, is okay. Nothing incredible. But
Polyanus pops up.
yeah,
That was a
Polyanus
delight.
is like, haha, Polyanus. So we just have one last question, which is to say, is Deioces a Shahanshah or a Shahana?
Oh, come on. Like, the only reason is because he's the first. And I feel like he does not deserve... That's not a good enough reason. You just happen to be the first. It's not...
Yeah, I'm not.
It's not like he immediately created a giant empire and then you're like, oh, wow, this is taking off. No, it's just he managed to, like, make a random city and unite a few villages. And then that happened to evolve. But I don't...
Yeah, it's nice to know he's there, but it's not anything that is mind-blowingly cool.
I don't think I would tell people about him.
No, Deioces is just...
Because I wouldn't know what to tell them.
Yeah, I mean,
There's so many...
I kind of like the story about tricking his way into power. That's fun.
I like the filling his house with stones. I keep wanting to
that's
say
cool.
boulders.
Say he filled his house with boulders.
Yes.
It'll make it more exciting.
And the people were like, oh no, attempted murder. Yeah, you definitely need a palace and a god and a city and a spy net. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so there we go. Deioces. Yeah, you are unfortunately a Shahana.
Yeah.
Which also is good because you're not even technically a king of kings. You're barely a king. It's fine.
You're not in Persia. What's happening?
So pat Deioces. You just go in the desert. We'll never see you again.
I feel like we're
Have
being
a
so
good
mean
time.
to him. Also, him who? Still don't know who he is.
Yeah, maybe he didn't even exist.
I know.
It's okay.
I feel like we bonded more with Herodotus and Polyanus than we did with Deioces.
Yes, I mean, it's important to bond with Herodotus. He's going to be around for a long time. We'll get to know him, and he's a lovable scamp.
I thought you
And
were
he has
going to
fun
say it's
stories.
important to bond with Polyanus and I was about to lose it.
No, don't bond with Polyanus
I'm
or ask
sorry.
for consent.
I'm sorry! Oh god. I'm sorry, everybody.
So yes, there we go. So that is the end of episode 1, Deioces, the beginning of the Median Empire. So from humble beginnings, we'll get to something meatier and tastier eventually in like a couple episodes. Next episode, I get to tell you about Assyria mostly.
Hey, well, those are fun. They're very violent and scary.
Spoiler alert, next episode about Pharaohortes is from one paragraph in Herodotus, full stop.
Great.
Watch me
Wow.
try and spin that into something usable.
Cannot wait. Full episode, like, I don't know, 40 minutes, an hour out of one paragraph. Let's do it, folks. Anyway, thank you for making it this far. If you're still listening, we really appreciate it. We hope you had fun.
Yes.
You have to start somewhere. Just like the Persian Empire.
Yeah.
This is the Deioces of our episodes, so let's
Yes.
go, folks.
Thanks for listening to our first episode. We'll eventually improve in us and in our source material because the material is going to be present.
Oh,
So that'll be fun.
we'll actually have, like, something to go off of.
Yes, we'll actually have more historical sources than my cousin knew a guy who told me this.
Although these are fun, though.
It's nice to have something to start from, and this gives you a bit of a flavor for Herodotus because he's cool. I like him. He's nice.
Yeah, well, I guess see you in the next episode.
So yeah,
Thank you
thanks
so
a lot
much.
for joining us, and yeah, we'll see you in episode 2, Pharaohortes.
Until then, goodbye.
Goodbye.